One of the most popular ways to explore Shenandoah is by taking a trip on the Skyline Drive. For over 100 miles, the road winds through the Blue Ridge Mountains, giving visitors some of the best views in the park. But why is this road here? And how did it get built? And who built it? To answer those questions is my friend Stephanie Hammer, a social studies teacher at William Monroe Middle School. Not only is she an awesome teacher, but she helps preserve and share the park's history.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Hammer. I teach at William Monroe Middle School, Social Studies, U.S. History. Skyline Drive was built in the 1930s. First, it was built as a road, a ridge road along the mountaintop by President Herbert Hoover. He had a fishing camp, which is still in the park. And he would come here, and so he was familiar with the area. During President Roosevelt's presidency with the New Deal program, they created the CCC, Civilian Conservation Corps, who then took up the job of building Skyline Drive as we know it today. The CCC hired young men in their early 20s. They had to be unmarried so that part of the money would also help support their families. So they would live in the park and they would get paid $30 a month. $5 they were allowed to keep, and $25 was sent home to support the families. In Western United States, like I said, there were parks that were national parks that were built, but there was nothing in the eastern states. And so the government was looking to build a park somewhere in the east. Virginia advocated quite a bit to have it built here, Shenandoah National Park, and also they were looking at Smoky Mountain National Park. And so it provided for the people, and there were about 40 million people living in cities in the eastern states at the time. And it provided a way for them to go and get some outdoor recreation, go for a drive, which was very popular at the time because everybody was buying cars. And it was just a lot more accessible in distance for people. There were families on both sides of the mountains. They interacted with the communities that were at the foot of the mountains, or they were part of the community that was at the foot of the mountains. They were known as mountain folk, and they farmed, they raised beef and cattle, there were copper mines, there were people who made pottery, and they were a thriving community. They were quite successful about what they were doing. They were organized, they had churches, they had schools. So they were people that enjoyed and felt like they were living the American dream up in the mountainside. So it completely changed their lives, those that were living on the mountain. They were forced to leave or told they had to leave. Some left, some volunteered to leave. Some needed to be forced out. There were a few individuals, because of their age, that were granted the right to stay in their homes until they lived out their lives. But a lot of people felt like they were misrepresented and they were disappointed in what the government was doing and weren't really sure where they could go because they didn't have land to sell. They just needed to get up and leave. So it did impact their lives quite a bit. So we still live in the mountains. And so they're very familiar with the park. They come here with their families. They go for drives. They go on picnics. They camp. They hike. And so they're familiar with the park. When I teach the Great Depression, we talk about building of Shenandoah Park because we talk about the New Deal programs. And so I show pictures of the park being built, including the stone walls. And when they see the stone walls, they recognize everything right away. And it brings it full circle for them because they feel like they're learning something about their own community and a place where they've been. I think they took away the understanding that history changes and that where they live and they only know there's a park there, they learn that at one point in time it was different.
The Civilian Conservation Corps employed 3 million young men during the Great Depression, working on projects from planting trees to maintaining trails to controlling mosquitoes to infrastructure projects like the Skyline Drive. Many of these projects are in national parks still today. Sadly, Congress ended the program in 1942. World War II had broken out and workers were either drafted or otherwise engaged in the war effort. But that doesn't mean there aren't still great organizations that maintain and protect public lands. Some states have their own conservation corps that do much of the same work the original CCC did, but in state parks and wilderness areas. There's also great city and county-wide programs that get young people outdoors and involved in conservation. See what's going on in your community and see how you can get involved. Heck, you can do a lot in your own backyard or school just by planting native plants and wildflowers, building a rain garden, setting up bird and bee boxes, or taking part in any of the many citizen science programs that document plant and wildlife. You don't even have to leave your house to help protect local ecosystems, and that is pretty cool. Want to learn more about our national parks? Then hit that subscribe button, friend. Stay up to date and catch bonus features by following us on Instagram @OutSCIder.